The countdown is really on for the Jaguars game on Saturday night. I've got 1010XL's Frank Frangie here. Frank, I think you're just as excited as I am, and I know a lot of the people at home are just as excited as both of us.
I can't remember, Jamal, the last time I was this excited about a football game, and I'm excited every week they play. I love these games, but I'm as excited about this game as I have been about a Jaguar game in a long, long time. The place is going to be packed. It's going to be rocking. The Jags are playing well. They're the team that's won a bunch in a row. They're well-positioned. They're healthy. There's no reason not to be excited about what this means, and it means so much. Maybe the most important regular season game the Jags have ever played in this ballpark. I really believe that. Ever. The ever is a long time. I'm really excited about this thing. I really am.
All right, let's talk about the road to get here for a second, Frank. I mean, this team started off 2-1, lost 5 games in a row. If they win on Saturday night, tomorrow night, they win. That would be their 5th game in a row to wrap up the season. So a 5-game winning streak. There's only 4 teams in NFL history that have had a 5-game losing streak and a 5-game winning streak in the same season and made the playoffs. The Jaguars could become the 5th team to do that. And get this, here's the cool part of it. Doug Peterson was with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2015. They're the last team to do it.
And they were turning the corner then. And you can tell when a team's turning the corner. We've talked about this all along. They were losing early on, but other than the Detroit game, you're allowed to lay an egg once a year. But other than that game, they were in every single game they played. You could tell there was something special about this group. This wasn't even though they were losing games, it wasn't a bad football team. It was a way better team than we've seen in recent years. The light was going to go on. Now, was it going to go on this year or maybe early next year or maybe at the end of this year? And it went on just in time. But you could tell that change was coming, Jamal. I think everybody knew that change was coming. I'm not surprised. Did I expect 4 in a row and 5 out of 6? No, I didn't. But I did think at some point it was going to happen, and I'm glad that it has.
You know, I start to think back to the beginning of the season or even the off season when Doug Peterson first got here and at that veteran mandatory minicamp, he gave all the veteran players off. And I said then that that's not something a coach does when he thinks the team isn't ready to win games immediately. Because if you look at it and you say, oh, man, I'm going to be a rough year. You get those guys as much work as you can get them because you're like, I got to get them fixed. But I think Doug had some confidence going into the year and had a feeling about this team because he never wavered. The locker room never wavered through that rough stretch in October. And now they've been pointing at Week 18 that the season would come down to this, and it's all come to fruition.
And let me tell you about that. I talked to Doug about that. And one of the reasons he did that, to your point, is he had to re-engage those guys. He had to teach them that it's not going to be, with all due respect to Urban, the way it was last year. He had to teach them, listen, we're not going to beat you to death. We're going to play hard. We're going to practice hard, but we're going to be fair. And I think that's one of the reasons he's done such a good job of building culture and reaching out and getting these guys to trust him. And part of that was managing how hard they went early on. He really knew what he was doing with this team, Jamal. You're right about that, and that's a big part of where they are now.
All right. In the last matchup against the Titans, Trevor Lawrence had a big day, but I think the guy that really went off for the offense was Evan Ingram. Of course, Shaquille Quarterman, a Jacksonville native, had the big hit on Derrick Henry. What do you think can be the key for the Jaguars on Saturday night in this game?
Well, I think they've got to throw the ball early on, whether it's Ingram, whether it's Christian Kirk, whether it's Zay Jones. They're going to have to throw early on. You know that Tennessee's better at stopping the run than they are the pass. I think we all know that. We also know that Jacksonville, the real weapons are outside. Travis Etienne is fantastic, but they're a pass-blocking, passing team. So I think they've got to throw early on. And then the other key is obvious. You got to stack the box. Don't let Derrick Henry beat you, whatever that means. He may have some yards. Don't let Derrick Henry beat you. Make Joshua Dobbs, who's only been on that team for 17 days, make him beat you, not Derrick Henry. That's the obvious answer.
Yeah, so it's going to be a big game on Saturday night. Hopefully everything comes together and the Jaguars can be hosting a playoff game next week. We'll talk a little bit more about the matchup tonight on Teal the Show. That's at 11:20. We will see you then.